Hello everyone, my name is Himanshu Sharma, and in this video we will continue with our authorization server setup, and this time we are going to persist our data in the database. So let's get started and let's fire up our all the three services: authorization server and authorization. Okay, let's start the server. Okay, started, then client, and let's go to resource server and let's start this one. All right, and let's see, client is started and resource server is also started. So let's quickly test the setup, and let's open an incognito and we say integer.0.1 and our endpoint was a message, and then we say password, read submit consent, and yes, it is working. Now let's do our first step, and in this case we are going to go to auth server. All right, so in the auth server, first thing we are what we will be doing is we will change this configuration. So earlier we put the client config over here and the user details configuration in our code base in the security config. So first let's move that configuration, the client configuration, also into the security config file. And for that, let's head to our file, and like we have user detail service, for registered client we will be having registered client repository bean. So we'll create a bean, and for this we create our own custom class. So let's do one thing. All right, let's name new client repository. Okay, and we say create class, and let's say controller, repository. Okay, done. So this is the only requirement of our class, and that is it should implement registered client repository. And let's implement the methods, and let's quickly make a dummy implementation. We say private map and string registered client clients equal to new hash map, right? And then we say for save we are going to put the incoming registered client as get client ID, and then we are going to put registered client. That's it. And then we say return clients dot get, and here I put the ID, and again same thing here, clients dot get, and then we say client ID. That's it. So this is our custom client repository ready. Now what we have to do is we need to inject the client details into this repository during runtime, and for that what I'm going to do is I will create a application runner bean, and we say okay clients runner. Okay, and here I would expect this registry, right? And then I say that okay, create it as a bean, and here the application runner requires a function to be executed. So we say return like this. Okay, like this. All right, so here what I'm going to do is I will put the details. So in our case client ID is what? Okay, let's do one thing. Instead of getting to and fro between these files, let's copy this much over here. All right, and what I'm going to do is I will refer this information and I create a client over here. All right, so we say client ID is what? Demo. All right, done. Now I need to create a instance. So first I will check whether the registry already have this client ID or not. Okay, and remember, in our case we have override both get ID and get client ID to use the same client ID only, and we are persisting the data in the map with the key as client ID only. Okay, so here register client repository dot find by ID client ID, and if it is null, we say that okay, let's create one. So we are going to say register client repository dot save, and then we expect it to save what registered client dot with ID dot build, right? And let's break it down. So let's take it like this. All right, so with ID let's give it some ID like id dot random uid to string. All right, and let's put here. Now next thing we need is client secret, so we say dot client secret. Then what else we need? Authorization grant types, right? So we say authorization grant types. Next we need redirect URIs, so we say redirect URIs. Next we need scopes, so we say scopes. Next we need what client authentication methods, so we say client authentication methods. All right, so now let's fill the values of these methods. So client secret is this one, right? So we say okay, copy this and paste it over here. Then we need client grant types, right? So we say okay, for that you have authorization that's the one, authorization grant type dot and client credentials, right? Let's make it a static import. And what else we need? Authorization code, and what else we need? Refresh token. Fine. Why it's giving error? It is looking for what? Consumer of set. Okay, fine. So we say authorization grant type, so we say let's name it AGT, and we put it like this, and we say AGT dot add all, and then we say that set of this, right? And done. Now redirect URIs. Redirect URIs is what? Let's quickly check. It's again a consumer, so we say URIs, and then again URIs dot add, because in our case it's only one, so we can just put it like this. Done. And then the scopes is user read. Okay, so scopes again yeah, right? So what we say, scopes, right? And we say scopes dot add all, then we say that set off, and let's put the string over here, this, and let's make it like this. All right, now last one is authentication methods, which is client secret basic. So let's quickly check if this is also yeah, this is also a consumer. So let's see cam dot add, and then we say client authentication method. Which one we need? Client secret basic, right? This one. That's it. And yeah, we need one more consent. So we say that okay, so consent you will not get directly, you will not find it directly here as a consent something. Okay, instead you need to use client settings. So you say client setting, and then we will use the client settings builder, and we can put require authorization consent as true, like this. All right, so this should work. Let's remove this. All right, and then let's comment this out for now, this whole part, and yeah, that's it. And let's run the application, restart it. Okay, and it is failing. Why? Client ID cannot be empty. Where did we miss the client ID? Oh, okay. I think we missed the client ID, right? So we say client ID. That's it. Now let's restart. Alright, the server started. Now let's restart clients and resource server. Alright, started. So let's test our new setup. And pass the value. And yeah, it is working. Alright, now we have everything in our security config, right? So let's head to the auth server. We have everything on the security config. So let's get rid of this part here. Now comes to DB persistence, and for that we need to add two dependencies over here. The first one is let's copy paste. Okay, wait, let me pull it. Alright, so we need these two over here. Okay, so like this. Yeah, so we need start a JDBC and a PostgreSQL. Alright, let's load our Maven changes. Alright, they are loaded. Now let's head to the security config. Now in this case, what I need is I need a JDBC template, right? So now I need JDBC template, and in the return I will not go for client repository. Now I need JDBC registered client repository. Alright, here I am passing the JDBC template. That's it. Alright, so now for this we need a schema, right? So we need a schema where our this information will be stored. So let's create a schema file SQL. Okay, and I have it ready. So what I can do is let me put it over here directly and I will show you here. Alright, so this is the schema. Now how did I get this one? So when you go to this one, JDBC register client repository, if I open this one and just scroll to the top, and here you can see that depends on the table definition described in class path this. So you already have this definition, so you can just quickly copy it and search it over here, right? So it is already present. You just need to copy it, put it in a schema file. Alright, and now to make sure that schema file run on our targeted database, what I'm going to do is I need to add few entries in the application YAML, and for that data source, and it's going to be URL. Let me get it to make it quicker. Alright, so you need to make these entries not like this, should be like this. Alright, so I just specify the database configuration and make sure that the script run. So initialization mode is always. So now alright, so let me start the my PostgreSQL server once. You can use any other relational database. Let's do Alright, so it started, and let me open a DB client. Okay, so I'm using dbeaver. Okay, so in the meantime, what we are doing over here is, see, we just updated this part and nothing else. So now our registered client repository bean will be a JDBC client repository. Okay, here. And this time, okay, and one more thing, one little change we need to make now, because this is a JDBC registered client repository, and here we are searching with client ID, right? So now find by ID is actually going to be this ID. So instead of that, we can use find by client ID, because in our custom implementation we override both the methods to use the client ID. Okay, because we are storing based on the key as client ID only, but here we just need to make that slight change. Alright, so now we will be looking for client ID, and alright, so here is open. Let's head to the database. I already tested this setup, so what I'm going to do is, let me drop all these tables once. Alright, yes, alright, okay, so now let's start the our auth server. Okay, so let's hit it and let's restart our auth server. Okay, alright, so it's looking good and it started, right? So since it is started, we should expect that same behavior, right? The only thing is that we now should expect this information to be persisted in the database. So let's head to the database and let's refresh our tables once. You can see we get the registered. So say select star from Auth2 registered client, right? And here we have the information. Alright, so the data is getting persisted. Now let's test this. Okay, and before that, let's quickly restart the clients and the resource server just to be sure. Alright, so client is started and resource server is also started. Alright, okay, open it and you see message, and then you say okay, enter, and yeah, it is still working. So our client persistence works well. Now let's do the user persistence in a similar manner. So you get the idea, right? The difference is about the this thing, the repository. Okay, so now we just did the JDBC template for client. So now let's do the same thing for user. So similarly, in case of user, what we are going to do is, we will say that now instead of creating user detail service pane, let's comment this out for now. What I'm going to do is I will create a JDBC user details manager, this one, right? And this one will require a data source, and then we simply return new JDBC user details manager with the data source. That's it. The way we did earlier for JDBC template for client repository, now the same thing we are doing for details manager. And that's it, done. Alright, and yeah, so the bean is the manager is ready, but we still need to inject one object, one user information which we were earlier maintaining in the in-memory manager. So what I'm going to do is I will just use the same runner method, and now this time my runner method not only check for client repository, it will also check for my user. So I say if user all right, so for that first I need to inject the user details manager, right? So we see user details manager, and then so we say that user exists, right? And the username is we say if this is not the case, then perform these steps, right? Till here, right? So you say perform these. Oh, right. All right. Before that, yeah. So user details, this one, and then we expect user detail manager to create user, and here we specify. So earlier we are persisting in memory. Now we are going to persist in the user detail manager bean, which is getting injected here. All right. Now again for these also we need schema, right? And for that I have them ready. So let me pull it through like this. All right. So the schema is like users, username, password enabled, and then authority, username, authority, constraint, foreign key, username, right? And how did I get it? You can also check it here. You can refer, go to security config, and you have JDBC user details manager, right? Like earlier for the client schema, we look for registered client repository. Here we are looking for details manager. So let's get over here and scroll up. Up here you have a DAO implementation and a user detail manager. So if you go to JDBC DAO implementation, here you can see default user schema DDL location, which is users.ddl. So if you search it, users DDL, this one, right? So this is what we have, like creatable users, username and password enabled, and then authorities, again we have username, authority, constraint of this one, foreign key constraint, and these, right? So it's the same one. Where is that? Here, username, authority, and the two constraints. All right, so this is done. This is done. Let's close these. All right, so we are ready with the user also. So we have commented our previous code, and now when we restart the server, it should persist a user also. All right, let's start and see what happens. Okay. All right, started, and let's check the database. Let's refresh tables, and now we have two tables, users and authorities. We can check users, right? And we can check let's start from authorities, right? Okay. Now time to test application. Restart client and restart resource server. Client is started and resource server is also ready. So let's head it. .3.0.1 message, password, sign in, and yet it's working. Now both our user as well as client information are stored in a database. Okay, and if I look at the authorization server code now, in the application YAML we remove all the client configurations, and in the security config we have removed the user information. Right, we created two beans, one for user detail manager and one for register client repository, and during runtime we are persisting information into these. Okay, all right then. Yeah, so that's all in this video. Thank you everyone. Thanks for watching. If you have any suggestions or feedback, please let me know in the comment section. Thank you and have a nice day.